Another day, another lesson. I hope you guys are working hard and I can't wait to see you guys in class again. We are going to have a look at our second lesson for climatology today. We are discussing the layers of the atmosphere. Now we have 5 layers of the atmosphere and we are going to focus on all of them and why they are important to the Earth and how it's protecting the Earth from certain things in space. So the layers of the Earth, they are thin layers of gases that surrounds the Earth, and the higher up we go, the less gases we find in the atmosphere. So by the time you get to the exosphere, which is the furthest away from the Earth, you will see that there can be no gas molecules can be found in the exosphere. So I wrote here no gas molecules, and it has little impact on the surface of the Earth, obviously because it is so far away. So the exosphere is very far away from the surface of the Earth, and it has little impact on what happens on the surface. So the one that is closest to the Earth is the troposphere. Now the troposphere is very important for planet Earth, and it is important that we have a look at it and understand what is going on there. Alright, so let's look at the troposphere. Like we said, it's the closest to the surface, and the temperature goes down as you go up. So as you go higher in height, the temperature decreases. So your temperature goes down as you go up. In this layer is where we find weather conditions. So this is where we find our clouds, and this is where we find a lot of wind blowing in this part of the atmosphere. This is where we find our weather conditions. Weather is formed in the troposphere. Now, I drew a little diagram here for you. The troposphere would be right here at the bottom, closest to the surface of the Earth, and then you would get something called the Tropopause. So the Tropopause is what separates the troposphere from the stratosphere. Now the stratosphere is our next level. So you need to know that between the troposphere and the stratosphere, you find the Tropopause. Alright, the second layer that is just the one above the troposphere is called the stratosphere. So the stratosphere is different again. As you go up, as you go higher in height, the temperature increases. Okay, so as you go up in height, the temperature increases. In this layer, we can find something called the ozone layer. So you have maybe heard of the ozone layer based on pollution, or when they say we are destroying the ozone layer, so we are destroying our Earth. It is pretty much true, because the ozone layer helps to absorb the sun's UV rays. Now the moment the sun's UV rays hits us as people, or hits the surface of planet Earth, that will be very, very harmful. We will not be able to survive. So we need to protect the ozone layer so that it can continue to absorb the sun's UV rays. Alright, and because there's absorption, meaning there's a reaction or an action happening, it makes the temperature increase. Alright, the temperature increases because of the absorption in this layer. So that is why as you go up in height, temperature increases. The temperature increase is because of the absorption of the sun's UV rays. And the same as with the previous layer, we have something that separates the stratosphere and the mesosphere. It's called the Stratopause. So we have the Tropopause and the Stratopause. Then we have a look at our next layer, which is called the mesosphere. The mesosphere, this is again same as the troposphere, where temperature decreases as we go higher up. So your temperature will be colder when you go up in height. Alright. Now in this layer is where meteors burn up, which is very important because imagine these meteors had to hit the earth every single time. So the mesosphere helps protect the earth from meteors. And then again the same thing, what separates the mesosphere and the thermosphere, which is the next layer, is something called the mesopause. Okay. Then the thermosphere, which is our fourth layer from the Earth's surface, and the one that comes next would be the exosphere. But let's just have a look at this thermosphere. So in the thermosphere is where temperature increases as we go higher up. So as you move up, it gets hotter. Alright. So in this layer is where gases gets absorbed. The gases absorbs most of the sun's harmful UV radiation, and this causes the gases to heat up. So once again, there's a reaction that happens between the gases and the UV radiation. So the gases absorb this radiation, and that causes the temperature to increase. Okay, so now we have this. We have something called temperature inversion. And this is basically where the temperature increases. So the temperature increases as you go up in height. The term we use for this is called temperature inversion. This happens, if we go back, this happens in both the stratosphere and in the mesosphere, the thermosphere. So there's two places where temperature inversion happens, and it's the stratosphere and the thermosphere. So let's draw this all together, all the layers together, and it's like the picture in the beginning that we had a look at. So if we have the ground here at the bottom, let's write in ground over here. This is where you and I walk and live and do what we need to do. Our first layer over here, this is our layer of the atmosphere, is called the troposphere. Then we get that part of the atmosphere that separates two layers from one another, and that is called the tropopause. Then we get the stratosphere here. And the T I wrote over here is because this is where temperature inversion happens. Now if you can recall, temperature inversion is when temperature increases with height. Alright, and then we get the stratopause, which separates the stratosphere from the mesosphere. So then we get the mesosphere over here. Then next is what separates the mesosphere and the thermosphere, which is called the mesopause. And then our last layer is called the thermosphere. So something that happens in the thermosphere is temperature inversion, and this is where temperature increases with height. So the higher up you go, the hotter it gets. So if we have a look at our whole drawing, temperature is lower in the troposphere, higher in the stratosphere, lower in the mesosphere, and higher in the thermosphere. It is higher in the stratosphere and the thermosphere because of some kind of reaction that happens. whether it is gases absorbing the UV radiation or whether it is the UV rays that is being absorbed that causes an increase in temperature. If you have any other questions about Lesson 2's work, the layers of the atmosphere, please do not hesitate to comment below.